First video of the year. Yay.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Hey everyone, TexPool here, along with my bestie and co-narrator, White Cat.
Yay!
If it's your first time on the channel, this is the fourth episode of Sketchy Podcast, a series where me and White Cat are discussing the things we like, and you get to watch me draw something that is probably relevant to the topic of our conversation.
In the previous episodes from last year, we celebrated the 10th anniversary of Scooby-Doo and Kiss Rock and Roll Mystery, did a retrospective on Batman Forever for its 30th anniversary, while lamenting the loss of Val Kilmer, and we shared the outlandish history of one of our dear OCs.
And as for today's episode, we'd like to remind everyone of a very unique moment in the history of Western animation, when an iconic Looney Tunes writer and animator, Chuck Jones, got creative control over an equally iconic Hanna-Barbera's creation.
Tom and Jerry.
And as such, today's drawing is a recreation of that era's title card, a follow-up to my previous recreation of the classic title card, if you will.
It is the one iteration of the duo that I think is good after the Hanna-Barbera series, but we'll get to that in a minute.
Yep, and the fact that Chuck Jones got to make his own Tom and Jerry shorts is very iconic actually, because he was not a fan of the series originally. He, alongside other Looney Tunes writer and animators, saw it as very inferior to their work.
Oh yeah. Probably because of the lack of verbal humor.
And also because they didn't understand the appeal and genius of the chase formula. I'm convinced that they, or at least Chuck, had a change of heart following the unexpected success of Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner short, which originally was just a spoof of Tom and Jerry, as in to show, look how stupid it is. But regardless of Jones' feelings at the time, once he took over, he injected it with his own unmistakable flavor.
Which is evident even from the character design alone.
Indeed. Like, originally I didn't realize that Jerry had almost the same head shape as Tweety in this art style, until I started sketching this. It's not exactly the same head shape, but once you put one next to another, you'll notice the things they have in common. An oversized head, which is almost that of a toddler, a couple of hair on the top, very pronounced cheeks, and, all these little things.
Oh yeah.
But the true gem of Chuck Jones's Tom and Jerry is arguably Tom, or rather his memeful expressions.
Oh yeah, the signature sinister expressions in Chuck Jones cartoons. For example, Mr. Grinch instantly comes to mind.
Yup. And before we further elaborate on how much Jones's shorts are different from the original ones, I think we should mention our first respective encounters with Tom and Jerry.
That's right.
Care to tell your story first, Kat?
Oh, thanks. Certainly. So, I don't really have a very specific memory of my first exposure to Tom and Jerry. I pretty much watched the cartoon since I can remember, alongside lots of other cartoons such as the pre-mentioned Looney Tunes. And the exposure ranged from the times it was on TV channels like Cartoon Network, back when that channel was cool, by the way, to thematic collections on VHSs like Tom and Jerry on Parade and Festival of Fun. The VHSs my dad would often rent for us, before he and Mom eventually got us Tom and Jerry on Parade, as well as the DVD versions of some of the collections that were previously released on the VHS.
Yeah, I also can't really pinpoint the exact moment I was introduced to Tom and Jerry. My early exposure was limited to VHS, most of which were probably rented, because they kinda came and went. But there was one that we actually owned, which featured basically all the last Hanna-Barbera shorts, the CinemaScope shorts. And yeah, that tape also included the only two Spike and Tyke shorts, as well as that post-apocalyptic Goodwill to Man short.
Did they ever rent you the one that included Blue Cat Blues?
It was on the tape we owned, since it was a CinemaScope short. So yeah, I saw it as a kid, and to be honest, I didn't really give it a second thought. I mean, it's Tom and Jerry. They survived through worse than that. Surely a train won't unalive them. So I was surprised to find out that some people consider that one the series finale. And for anyone wondering what CinemaScope, well, it's a technique which allowed to produce widescreen pictures between the 1950s and 1960s as a way to keep people coming to theaters instead of just watching stuff on TV, which obviously had limitations at the time.
I think I saw the Blue Cat Blues episode on a Festival of Fun VHS tape as a kid, and yeah, I wasn't disturbed by that short as a kid either. It was a little weird, sure, but I didn't get freaked out over it. And yeah, you're right, these two survived a lot worse. Plus the fact that they had a whole 2 years of cartoons that came out after that short. And yes, I found that out thanks to Doug Walker's video on the matter. But yeah, I'm surprised as you are at how literally and seriously people take this episode. Come on, guys, it's freaking Tom and Jerry. They'll get away from that train.
I know, right? Funny enough, I do remember seeing at least one Chuck Jones short on one of those rented tapes, and it was Snowbody Loves Me. And yeah, right off the bat, it looked different. But my child's brain still registered this as Tom and Jerry.
Yeah, that's true. I saw a lot of Chuck Jones shorts alongside the Hanna-Barbera ones because they actually combined the two on VHS tapes I used to have, and yeah, I agree. The Chuck Jones version is still Tom and Jerry at its core. Because despite maybe sometimes humor not being on par with the original, it still feels like it was made by a person who understands animation and what makes Tom and Jerry work.
Yeah, both the Hanna-Barbera and the Chuck Jones shorts do write by the slapstick genre, but what sets them apart kinda emphasizes the difference between Tom and Jerry and Looney Tunes. Or at least when the latter is done by Chuck Jones.
Exactly. Especially considering the fact that even based on slapstick alone, Chuck Jones' Looney Tunes shorts were easily some of the best ones. I mean, Christ, look at some of his shorts like Duck Amuck and Robin Hood Daffy.
Or the Hunting trilogy.
Oh! Shoot him now! Shoot him now! Napusagasan!
Can't argue with that.
And after that, I ended up watching the Gene Deitch shorts, also alongside these two versions. And yeah, I used to watch the 1992 movie. And,
What did you think?
okay. I didn't mind this movie as a kid, and I nowadays can't really hate this movie either, because this movie is my childhood, regardless of everything. But, yeah, I can see where some of the hatred comes from when it comes to the movie. I mean, they literally had the most famous silent duo talk. And they had them talk throughout the whole thing. And they put them in an environment that's clearly not fitting for the duo. And they also made it a musical. Because certain somebody dominated the industry back in the day that way. Although, I personally thought the songs were okay, at best. I mean, I thought the ones that go throughout the end credits were actually pretty nice. But yeah, for the most part they're not that great.
I kind of feel embarrassed to admit it, but I used to really like the 1992 Tom and Jerry movie. But again, As kids, we tended to enjoy nearly everything we watched, as long as it was animated. But looking at it now, yeah, it's clearly nothing but brand exploitation.
And not a very good one.
And yeah, some songs are pretty catchy, but I'd mostly qualify these as earworms.
Yeah, the feeling is pretty much mutual, buddy. Because, like I said, the movie is really anything but great, and the songs. Yeah, now that I think about it, it's a case that's similar to that of Gay Paris. A movie that Chuck Jones made before he left Warner Brothers. The issue being the composer, known for an iconic project, being brought in to do the songs for this. And the songs in this turn out to be not that great. In the case of Gay Paris, it was the composer and the lyricist known for Wizard of Oz. And Tom and Jerry the movie had Henry Mancini.
Yoy way.
Now, as for the Gene Deitch shorts, so I've seen them frequently show up on TV, and the collections I have, like sometimes they would even air these, back to back with the classic shorts. So I do have a pretty big exposure to that version, mainly with the cartoons like Carmen Get It and Caribbean Cat, something like that, because there's an episode where they travel to Caribbean islands. And also the one where they they teach you how to do a Tom and Jerry cartoon. You know the one I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think they're horrible. Because they're far from horrible, actually. Like, I take it back. They're not horrible, like, at all. It just feels like it's more of an adaptation of a comic based on Tom and Jerry that was just given more motion. And something like that, rather than being an adaptation of a previously existing cartoon. I hate to say it, but between the Hanna-Barbera and Chuck Jones version, it's the weakest one of the three.
I probably only saw one or two Gene Deitch shorts, so I can't really judge them. All I can say is, yeah, they're pretty weird. But hey, they were outsourced in Czechoslovakia, and the people animated it had no prior exposure to Tom and Jerry whatsoever. So, I don't think it's fair to judge them too harshly.
Yeah, you're right. I don't mean to insult the man himself, and nor do I think it's an insult to the duo or anything. No, actually quite contrary, because I did still watch these alongside the other two versions, and yeah, even today I still get a few laughs out of this version. I just don't think it's as good as the original Hanna-Barbera or Chuck Jones version. I still think it's pretty funny though. Which is more than I can say for the versions that came out after the Chuck Jones version, at least. Oh my god.
Yeah. Unlike Scooby-Doo, which had a moderate success with their yearly animated films, Tom and Jerry just got stuck in the hole. Let's put these cat and mouse in a story that doesn't need them. They'll be there for the gags limbo.
Yeah, if people thought the Scooby-Doo lineup of movies was lackluster, clearly they're unaware of what happened to Tom and Jerry. Nothing but a couple movies they are the stars in, only to be shoved into already existing properties in most cases.
It's like we became these actors who used to be the big stars, but are now forced to seek work in very questionable movies.
Yeah, as if that's the only way they can remain in the game.
And that's just sad.
Yeah, it really is. And relevant, too. In more ways than one.
Which brings me to an unfortunate conclusion that the people in charge just don't understand what's the appeal of Tom and Jerry, and they desperately try to shape them into something they're clearly not. Chuck Jones may have resented them initially, but he cracked the code with the Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner shorts. Even if the reaction to his Tom and Jerry was originally harsh, I see a lot more people enjoy these shorts and appreciate them for what they are now.
as evident by how there's little to laugh at in the projects that came out after Chuck Jones' version. I mean, really, when was the last time you laughed at something Tom and Jerry related outside the Hanna-Barbera and Chuck Jones version? And Gene Deitch.
Shiver me whiskers, I guess. I mean, it's far from stellar, but there are a few moments every now and then, although it's mostly thanks to Mark Hamill.
Yeah, you're right. I guess you can say that the stuff that stars specifically Tom and Jerry themselves is okay, but even that's debatable.
At least we still have the original Hanna-Barbera shorts, as well as the Chuck Jones ones, and the Gene Deitch ones, and I can enjoy these forever.
Me too, buddy.
And it's only fitting that I ended up recreating both the classic title card, as well as the Chuck Jones one. No personal touch were added, just me trying to recreate it as faithfully as possible.
And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
And I guess that's it for today. We hope you enjoyed this video, and thanks again, Kat, for your participation.
Thank you for having me.
No problem. Thanks for stopping by. See y'all.
See you, folks.
Pritruzze sattu veseloje, jer servude prekrasan gaj. A ja Robin Hood baš tako mi čud, ja šerifu klisnem znaj. Zato sa mnom pođite, šumom vedro poskočite. Hopa čupa, skočimo skupa, pa gore pa dolje daj. Hopa čupa, hopa čupa, hopa čupa, 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 hopa čupa, 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 op! Mora me sad napucati, zahtevam da me napucaš sad! Nije. Baš godno, o, to je pravo, stvarno. A može malo boje, glupi? Ej! Ne mene kvazi umjetnice! Ej, ma daj, dođi ovamo! Daj mi krupni plan! Krupni plan! To je krupni plan! Krupni plan! Tikvane krupni plan! To je moje, razumiješ li? Moje, samo moje, pješ tamo! Moje! Hasan, čop! Da, e pa čopni zeca, onda se tu doveo. Ja, duh, svjetlo sivi zec. O, moćni duše. Oslobodi me i daću ti bogatu nagradu. Lažje! Čopni ga! Upomoć, spasi me, stari, spasi me, upomoć, spasi me! Što je s tobom uopće? Ne mogu si pomoći, ja sam pohlepni gad, to mi je hobi, spasi me! Zec, gadiv mi se. Da, gadiš mi se i oduran si i gadiš mi se iz dna duše. Kako čovjek može postati tako oduran za jednog života, nije mi jasno. Nije da sam sreo puno ljudi, ali to se zna, zar ne? Zna se, da, i zna se i ovoga odurno je. Stvarno si oduran. Što, gdje, kad, tko? O, ti, ha? Baš kad mi je krenulo ti moraš doći. Marš na brod!